The Braves just had a quiet but dominating 2 weeks, but they play 4 games against the Dodgers and it might decide who has the best record in baseball. Could this be the series of the season? It's BravesKast.
Today is August 28th. Just going to tell everybody it's August 28th. The Braves are still very good. We're in the dog days of August. They're still, me and Mitchell in our pre-show notes just said there's not much to talk about, but there's also a lot to talk about at the same time, paradoxically. But how are you feeling about what we've seen from the Braves the last 2 weeks?
It's weird. It didn't feel like 2 weeks since we recorded. Last week, it felt like 3 weeks since we recorded. Both Cole and I were like, are we recording today, last Sunday? And both of us were like, wait, no, we're not. But going back on like seeing how the team has done since we last talked, I had no idea they have already won 9 games. So we're recording before Sunday Night Baseball, because we don't want to record at 11 p.m. tonight or tomorrow. And so we make predictions every week or every other week, how we think the team will do in the next 2 weeks. And I think I predicted 7-5 over the last 2 weeks. I thought that was a pretty reasonable estimate. They're 9-4, or not 9-4. They're like what, 9-3 right now.
Yeah, they swept the Yankees, lost one game to the Giants, one game to the Mets, and they're currently up 2 games to the
Oh, so they're
Giants.
9-2. They've only lost 2 games in the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
One to the Mets, one to the Giants. Jared Schuster is pitching tonight, but I kind of feel like he could handle the Giants lineup. Nothing
I feel like
against.
the Giants series has taught me that I fear Wilmer Flores.
He
Only
is
against Max Fried though.
he's kind of the epitome of the Giants machine. They're a team very much at this point. Just for any casual fan, or if you're mostly just a fan of the Braves and don't pay too much attention to other teams, the Giants are basically the Rays with a slightly higher budget. And I know that's true for a lot of teams now. You can say that about the Dodgers even. But the Giants don't have any superstar talent. I think their highest wins above replacement by a single player is Lamont Wade Jr. with like 2.1. Yet they're still in the wild card hunt. They're a very fascinating team. It's kind of, in my opinion, not like a very exciting brand of baseball. There was a story a couple years ago about how they would tailor the lineup to specific swing paths, where sort of how the Rays used to do their bullpen based on arm slot. So teams basically aren't seeing the same arm slot from a different pitcher. The Giants have a system of that with their hitters. So interesting team. They're I guess if you were to chalk it up or to sum it up in a old baseball term, you would say they're scrappy. But still a decent team. They've been on a bit of a cold spell. Like pretty much every NL wild card contender besides the Phillies.
Which I'm
But
like, why? Come on, Phillies, go cold. I really.
Yeah.
They're the one team I want to lose more. All of the other teams I'm excited about.
Yeah, what a world we live in right now. The Padres and Nationals have the same record. The Reds and Marlins are still in the wild card hunt despite being objectively awful teams in the second half. So, but this isn't a baseball podcast. This is the Braves podcast.
It could be a baseball podcast though, if you want to give us, a small donation of
if you
$500,000.
want to hear us talk about the rest of the league, just let us know, because I love talking baseball. I think
love
it's a
talking
great
baseball.
sport. It's a pretty nifty sport.
Talking baseball with a G, not
Talking baseball.
an apostrophe.
G for Giants.
So, you want to just get into who has kept us afloat the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, let's do a quick recap of each series. Again, we are in the dog days of August. This is notably just sort of the cruise control of the season for a lot of teams. I think it's, even for me as like a huge fan who's always watching a game, the luster of the season, it's not, the luster season wears off around June, but then you have the All-Star break, and then you have the trade deadline, and now this is just sort of where the playoff picture's forming, but it's not getting to the wire quite yet. So just to recap the series, we sweep the Yankees. First game, Clark Schmidt has maybe one of the rudest homecomings I've ever seen. That was actually kind of brutal. It's kind of getting to a point. It was really weird. I had this thought. So I went to the Luis Severino game on Tuesday, and there's like this movie or TV show I remember watching, and I don't remember what it is, where it's basically, maybe it's Black Mirror or something, but I just remember there's like this audience who's watching, their favorite fighter or something, beat up on this much weaker opponent, and at some point they realize, oh my God, what are we doing? We're literally savages right now. I mean, we're literally encouraging this barbarianism right in front of our eyes, and it's brutal. And that's sort of how I felt during the Yankee series, because the Yankees are basically the Yankees in name only this year. They are not a good team. I think that series proved it. And it got to a point where that loss was so devastating in such a very low key way that it almost like felt kind of dirty watching it. I felt wrong for rooting for this team. And, again, like, Luis Severino only gave up 5 runs, which, by the way, I did predict he would give up exactly 5 runs. So patted myself on the back. You can call me the pitcher whisperer. Rob Friedman doesn't have shit on me. But the Yankees only had 1 or 2 hits against Bryce Elder, which, again, I love Bryce Elder, but you should be able to get more than 2 hits off of him.
That Yankees offense it's so sad. Like, you have Aaron Judge and then the ghost of like 3 players.
So many players.
And then I think their 5th or 6th best hitter is IKF.
I think he's actually their 3rd. He was batting 4. I mean, not that this is like, any indication, but he was batting 4th for them one game, which that should tell you everything that you know. I mean, even with injuries, which actually can't even use that. I mean, their only injured players right now are Josh Donaldson and Anthony Rizzo. The fact that you can't muster up any depth and IKF is batting 4th for you, it was quite sad. So first game,
we had a friend who kind of lost it on group
and he was at the game with me, and that's probably what contributed to me feeling dirty.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about him. I was thinking of
baseball
YouTuber, and that's baseball.
Yeah, he was sending us
2 Yankees friends.
Yeah, he was sending us voice memos in our group chat, just completely like losing his sanity. And so first game, Clark Schmidt gives up like 8 runs in the 3rd inning. Classic Braves, and this is something that I've noticed, where if the offense doesn't click the first time around, it's literally no indication of whether they're going to click second time around or not, because they will make adjustments on the fly. And I will get to that later for this Giant series, the away Giant series. The home Giant series, also pretty good.
It was oddly not memorable, except for
not at all.
One awesome homer by Eddie Rosario.
Yeah, so Friday night's game, that was Spencer Strider night. I was at a show. He looked dominant. He looked good. Just against the Giants offense. I'm the real test, and we're gonna probably take some major time to talk about the Dodgers series, because that's gonna be huge. That's gonna be the real test to me. I mean, that's pretty much, I think, the most important series we have for the rest of the year. Maybe the Phillies series at home, but I think that's gonna be. I mean, everybody's saying it. We might as well. An NLCS preview. We lose the Yanni Chirinos game, I believe.
No, we lost against the Giants. We lost the Max Fried game. Wilmer Flores.
The Sunday. Okay,
had like a 2-run homer.
Yeah, the Yanni Chirinos game was the Eddie Rosario game. Yeah.
Yeah. And then against the Mets, we had a 10-4 loss. I was really looking forward to seeing Winans again, actually. And I don't think he looked as bad as his numbers indicate. There was a lot of singles. Like the first 2 or 3 innings, I think he was getting hit hard and probably should have allowed. So maybe it evened out. He probably should have allowed another homer in the first couple innings, but like his last inning was just single, 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 up the middle, grounders, grounders, grounders. That's a tough way to lose. He seemed like he's in fine spirits. Like he took pictures with his family after the game. I saw. I'm not too concerned. He's also a 28-year-old. It's not like he's a 20-year-old who got called up and got shelled. He knows the business. I wish the Braves would keep him up on the roster though. He ended up getting sent down. We'll talk about the starting pitching a little later. Got sent down after the game. So it's really funny to me that Alan Winans has played 3 games for the Braves, pitched 3 games, started 3 games, has 3 days on the Braves roster. Charlie Culberson had like 59 days on the Braves roster, got into 1 game. It's a really funny world, the baseball world. But then the Braves took care of business the next 2 games. It's the Mets, like they make me sad as a not Mets fan.
It's so funny thinking about the beginning of the year because we were circling all of these series. I mean, this is the last time we're seeing them, and I don't think anyone would have predicted that this series ultimately really wouldn't have meant much.
The only game I was looking forward to, I ended up missing. So the local theater, it's not a local theater, but the theater by my house was showing Memento, and I've never seen it before. So I was like, I'm going to go see that in the theaters. That's really cool.
A fun movie to watch in the theater.
And then I realized that it was the old timers broadcasting crew. So I even missed that.
Not the old. Don't call them old timers quite yet. They're the Legends broadcast. I was able to watch it. We both missed the first one, unfortunately. The second one was good. The game wasn't as intense. Obviously, Charlie Morton put up one of his best career starts. He looked fantastic. We'll briefly touch on him later on in the episode, but I mean, the Mets offense just didn't do anything. The Braves offense does when it normally they very quietly scored 7 runs. I'll just put it like that. I mean, super efficient. Whenever they had runners on, they cashed them in. When we get to the end of the year, I do want to get into that stat because we talk a lot about ball go boom and home runs, but I think one thing that I want to pay attention to is efficiency. How many runners they've left on base versus how many runners they've cashed in, and I'm just curious to see.
They weren't good at it at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
I remember they were really struggling with runners on third and less than 2 outs at the beginning of the year. But they had so many home runs it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And now they're doing that, and they're hitting fewer home runs now.
Yeah, but they're
still
also
hitting a homer a game.
Yeah, they're still scoring, with runners on 2 out. There's not many times I feel like we get a runner on and they don't score. Like it seems like whenever a guy gets on base, we're at least scoring a run. I don't know how. I don't know if there's a stat that exists that isn't all encompassing of offensive efficiency, but I would be very curious how that would look. And who knows?
Probably just run expectancy versus actual runs, because there's like a run expectancy value for like each runner on a specific base for a specific out.
Yeah.
And so if you have a runner on first, it's different from having a runner on third with no outs.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it.
I'm
going to probably before next episode, I'm going to run that because I'm very curious. I just anecdotally, I have a feeling that the Braves are in the top 5 of that. I'm also going to say the Padres are in the bottom 5 because they are complete horse crap when it comes to scoring with runners on.
So, we go to San Francisco. The Logan Webb game was really interesting. Michael Harris hits a home run in the first inning, but no one else looks like they have a beat on him except Ozuna, and we'll talk about Ozuna in a minute. Second time through the order, it's almost like they knew what pitch was coming.
Yeah, and a lot of people are going to chalk that up to some sort of cheating conspiracy, and we're going to look really foolish if that ever does come out. But
But when you
we
have
are
9
we
good hitters, it's gonna happen.
we definitely aren't being paid by the Braves to say that that's a total lie, and to think that there is any inkling that they're cheating is crazy. No, I just, and again, this gets into a point I've been making where, we talk a lot about their first inning exploits, first inning triumphs. But one thing that's really impressive is that we've been able to do damage. I mean, Logan Webb, I would say, he's going to get Cy Young votes at the end of the year. I mean, he's an excellent pitcher, and we saw him last week. I think did we see him during the Yanni? Again, the Giant series at home was such a blur. I know
I can't remember if
pitched.
Strider and him matched up twice or not.
I
That's
don't
where
think
I'm struggling.
they did, because I remember when they matched up in San Francisco, I remember thinking it was the first time we saw them match up. So,
Because I think I saw someone make a Strider Webb pun this week, but not last week.
but it goes back to the start versus Kyle Hendricks in Chicago, where first time through the order, I mean, he was carving them up, and they made this very simple adjustment that even you and me as mere mortals could easily see them make. They just swung earlier in the count. They were like, what, we're not going to let this guy get deep in the count against us, where he can use his bounty of pitches to get us out and make us make weak contact. We're just going to jump on the first 2 pitches. Whatever one looks good, we're just going to go after that one. We're not going to wait too much for our pitch. We're comfortable in our ability. And with Logan Webb, the adjustment they made was like, hey, he's given us that low middle changeup. Let's just go after it. And that's why you see Matt Olson digging for the ball. Like, he's not trying to hit it 400 feet. He's still able to make good contact because he's able to see that changeup right out of the hand. Michael Harris does that, even though he hit the home run in his first at bat. He was like, no, I'm hunting that low changeup. We know we're going to get one of those. As a lefty, we're going to get one of those in this at bat. That's how he's sequencing us. And it's just, again, yeah, you could say it's cheating. You could say, but it's just, it's not common sense. It's, analytics and being able to study the pitcher in real time. And it's impressive. And it's just this team-wide, they talk about bad teams, how they sort of stumble upon themselves and, everything is faltering because, one guy wants to be the guy and, swings too hard or tries to play out of his ability. And the Braves are the complete opposite. They feed off each other and, they're able to pick up on sequences that they see from other hitters. And it's just amazing. I mean, it's genuinely just fun baseball to watch. I mean, this is why we watch the game. For stuff like this. I love it. I love it so much.
I always think, man, I got really lucky that my childhood team ended up going and using a philosophy that I absolutely love on both sides of the ball. So yesterday Max Fried pitched. I missed most of it, but I think he looked fine.
He looked good. His curveball is looking like it was back in 2019. So we've talked about this where he's lowered his curveball usage, upped his slider. He's it's kind of 50-50 again. I love it. I love his curveball so much. It's a beautiful looking pitch. I mean, you can frame that in the Louvre, but he looked good. He looked really good. Again, the Giants offense.
Go ahead.
The Giants offense, I mean, there's just, besides, of course, Wilmer Flores, who, I mean, come on, the guy's a legend, just doesn't really have the pop to really challenge a pitcher of Fried or Strider's caliber, but they both still looked really good.
Yeah. I was just going to point out that the Braves still seem to have, like, some type of training wheel mechanism on Fried. Like, he's been back with the team almost a month now. But he's still, or over a month, I think. But he's still not pitching deep into games. Like, the Braves won't let him. I feel like he has to fight to be on the mound an extra inning every game.
I want to say, he got 90 pitches.
Yeah,
yesterday.
like he's not hitting 100 still.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with
Again,
it, but it
yeah,
is
I'm fine
interesting
with
to
it.
see.
I mean, I could go on with Strider about pitching the 7th again. Broke his scoreless streak. I mean, he literally, I think, got one out in the 7th and allowed. It was like a first pitch triple to Jock Peterson that he just grooved down the middle. Again, there's not many times I find myself questioning the decisions that this team makes. Throwing Strider in the 7th against the Giants in a laugher of a game where we're up already 5-0 doesn't make too much sense to me.
I actually am like whatever. Like he wants to pitch deeper in games. He was at 9. When Snicker pushes Strider out there in the 7th when he's already at 96 pitches, I'm like that seems like a bad idea because he's going to try and strike out everybody and he'll be at 115 pitches. Or you're going to have to go to a reliever in the middle of the inning, which as a fan I hate.
Yeah.
But also it doesn't seem necessary. But when I think Strider was actually under 90 pitches in San Francisco, where I'm like,
I think he was right at 90. If it's a close game, fine. Let him be the ace. Let him save some bullets out of the bullpen. But we were winning this game. I mean, we could have literally thrown Charlie Culberson out there for the last 2 innings, and we would have still won the game.
I mean, I also think with the schedule, that was the first game of what's the math on that? A 14 game? That seems too high. It's 4 plus 3.
I didn't
10,
check the
10
actual
straight games?
schedule. Yeah, I didn't check the actual schedule. There's no way we're playing Monday. That would be insane if we're
Well,
playing.
we do. We play
What?
tomorrow. We play tomorrow in Colorado.
No. I mean Monday, not
The
this
following
Monday,
week.
next Monday. Yeah. When we travel back to Atlanta.
We don't.
Okay.
So
okay.
I think that's 10 straight games.
Yeah.
That's still a lot for the bullpen.
Yeah. And then
But
going to Colorado too, like you know that I think in the back of their mind, every team knows we're going to be burning some arms in Colorado.
I think the 2 of the 3 pitchers that the Braves will be using in Colorado are actually really good for Colorado. So Strider, his repertoire works well in Colorado because his slider doesn't break that much anyway, and batters cheat on the fastball.
Yeah.
And his fastball, you don't want it to move that much anyway. And then Elder's a ground ball pitcher. The guy I'm worried about is Charlie tomorrow, where I'm like hit.
Oh, Charlie. Oh, I think it's a Tony. I'm like,
Charlie. No, Charlie.
Yeah.
Because he does need that break
Yeah.
in Colorado. But like when you have Elder and Strider on Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm not terribly concerned.
Yeah.
Watch me now that I'm saying that. I might have to offer an apology next week.
Luckily, too, we are facing the Rockies at a time when their offense is so anemic that they could literally be playing on the moon and still get shut out. So I'm not too worried about it. So that was the recap. Again, just quiet dominance. It's at a point where we're not really surprised by it. I think if they went on this stretch in April, we're just fawning over this team and we're like, oh my gosh, they swept the Yankees. But it's just
I kind of forgot we even swept the Yankees.
It's just another day at the office at this point. Not to say that the results don't matter in August. I mean, they matter. I mean, I'm kind of of the philosophy. It's like every game matters equally, unless it's against like a division opponent or an opponent that you're obviously in a chase with. But in terms of calendar wise, a win in April is just the same as a win in August. I do kind of believe that, but we're at a point right now where the team's pretty much in cruise control. We will get to the Dodgers about having the best record. I think we're going to have some disagreements there, but just quiet dominance from this team. Do we want to move on? Do you have anything else? Or do we want to move on?
No,
to
I was just going to say
Rosario?
the surprising thing about the past 2 weeks is who's carried the team. This has not been the Braves winning, and every night in the box score you see an Acuna homer or a Riley homer or an Olsen homer. The catchers haven't really done much in the past 2 weeks. Ozzy Albies is out with an injury, which I don't think we covered last time.
He got injured, I think, on Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah, so he's been out for the past 10 days. Nicky Lopez
Mm-hmm.
has been doing his thing. He plays great defense. That's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about him. We'll give him a little shout out later. The two guys who have been carrying this team for the past 2 weeks are the guys who seem to go ice cold and streaky hot at the same time. Marcell Ozuna, since we last talked, has a 312 WRC plus. He had 4 home runs against the Mets. He's walking almost twice as much as he's striking out right now. He looks like he did in 2020, and he's looked like this earlier in the season, but he went ice cold again. And then Eddie Rosario, whenever he sees a team from the NL West, his eyes get really big, and he just is like, I will hit a lot of home runs. I'll
he becomes
hit
the
a lot
Terminator
of
of baseball.
He has a 255 WRC plus, and that includes the past 2 games where he went 0 for 4 and 1 for 4. That game against the Giants that they won on Saturday, they had to come back from behind. Which Rogers was pitching? I can't even remember. I think it was Tyler Rogers was pitching.
It was definitely the lefty, Rogers.
Was it the lefty who allowed the homer?
I'm pretty. There's no way. Knowing the Giants, there's no way he's facing a righty in that situation. There's no way.
I think you're right, because I think I was thinking, why isn't Snicker hitting Pilar here? And then, of course, Eddie Rosario.
Rosario's been good against lefties this year. I understand that the lefty Rogers. I'm sorry, I can't. They're twins. Their both names both start with T. I'm so sorry that I'm not able to tell you all apart. But the lefty Rogers, I know he has a crazy delivery that it really doesn't matter what your splits are as a lefty. It's just harder to see the ball. But Rosario, I don't have his stats.
The righty Rogers has the really crazy delivery.
That's right. But still, it's still it's not the really crazy one, but it's still an elongated delivery. But I don't have his stats now, but I do know that Rosario has been good against lefties. That was pretty much, I think, the only zone besides like inside, like up and out, where he's able to do damage on it. I mean, he just got his pitch and he was able to take it exactly where he needed to take it. But that was a beautiful home run. Definitely
beautiful reaction by Rogers too. Like,
that
needs to be remembered for years.
Definitely.
He's just.
I was gonna say definitely shades of the 2021 NLCS. Even Eddie in his post-game interview mentioned it, and honestly, the relationship between Eddie Rosario and the city of Atlanta is so beautiful to watch. Even when he's been in his coldest spells, you'll still hear Eddie chants. You heard Eddie chants in San Francisco, and I honestly think it was just because they were remembering when he hit for the cycle on 4 pitches, and that they still haven't forgotten about that. Because that's just I feel like the fans of San Francisco, they just appreciate baseball, and that was good baseball.
I feel like Eddie is our guy who, on the aggregate, he's the most average player you could have. But because of the NLCS and because he's still with the team, and he just has this fun personality. Like, even when he's struggling, he's still having fun playing baseball. The city of Atlanta has just attached themselves to Eddie in a way that they didn't really. I've never seen them do it for any other player who is not great. Yeah, maybe like Charlie Culberson has this cult, but he doesn't have Charlie Chance.
No.
But anyway,
just quick note, and not to make this about me, but ever since I saw Marcell Ozuna buying literally maybe $1,000 worth of fruit at my local Kroger, he's been Barry Bonds. And this was a month ago when this happened, so I just want to point that out.
We just have to talk about Marcell now. We've gotten Eddie out of the way. Marcell Ozuna, after Cole gave him that massive pep talk, I think, Cole, what did you say to Marcell when you saw him in the store? You don't have enough fruit in that basket. Maybe just a couple of tangerines.
I looked him in the eye. In my most plain English, because I don't know a lick of Spanish besides biblioteca, I said, "See the ball, hit the ball,
and get some more fruit in that basket."
And I walked away. Yeah, you need a couple more oranges. maybe get some apricots. Those are a very underrated fruit, in my opinion.
So
Yeah, he's
we've made our
12.
stance clear on Marcell. I don't think I've changed that much on my stance with Marcell. I don't know if you have, Cole. I'm still torn. I'm still split on Marcell the person. But
Internet
Marcell the
discourse,
player.
it's complicated because now, and we've said this at the beginning of the year. We asked ourselves, what happens if he starts playing well? Like, does that automatically absolve him of, not only the domestic violence but the DUI? I mean, that's a morally ambiguous person, to say the least.
Yeah.
And now
I think
the fact that he turns into Barry Bonds. I mean, think about how loved Barry Bonds was when he played because of how good he was. Does that change our perspective on him? I don't know. That's the thing. I honestly don't know. I don't have an answer to that. It's a complicated question we have to ask ourselves as sports fans. Does performance absolve personal issues? I just don't have the answer.
I think with Marcell too, it is interesting because his case is more ambiguous than the normal type of thing. Two things he's done differently this year is I've seen reports that's like the media said he's been more open than in years past. And he's also been shouted out by teammates. I think
Yeah.
the teammates thing helps a little bit where like he's earned the respect of his teammates back. We don't know what they've said behind closed doors, but like last year after the DUI, the whole team was disappointed at him. Like you could see it in the dugout.
And again, they don't have to openly advocate for him unless they really meant it. But both Matt Olson and Michael Harris have credited Marcell Ozuna for turning their seasons around. I mean, you see him and Ronald in the dugout. I mean, they're just like two peas in a pod. That's probably how
Frenchie
they describe themselves
on the broadcast too has been supportive. And I don't know Jeff Francoeur, but Francoeur has a great reputation as a person. Like it's what kept him on the field as long as he did.
Yeah.
So I think that brings it to Jerry Blevins. The other day, Jerry Blevins tweeted, Marcell Ozuna makes a very fun Braves team near impossible to root for. If you don't know who Jerry Blevins is, he was a relief pitcher for a bunch of teams. The Mets and the Braves, though, were two teams that he did pitch for. I thought he was from like the New York area because he's attached himself so much to the Mets and he didn't play for the Mets that long. I think he played for them like 4 seasons. Like he wasn't like a 10-year.
For a reliever, that's
type.
Forever though.
Yeah, I guess.
It's
That's not even Luke Jackson territory, though.
Yeah, he might as well have a plaque in New York's Sports History Hall of Fame.
Congratulations for making it out of New York.
He strikes me as an Ohio guy. Is he from Ohio?
I think you're right.
No way. No freaking way.
I think you're right. We got to look that up. I'm pretty sure he's from Ohio.
That was a total... It's funny, though, because I would never guess that Strider was from Ohio. Like, he strikes me as... Not even a Texas guy. He strikes me actually as a California guy. Let's see.
Jerry Blevins went to high school
of
in Arcadia, Ohio, and University of Dayton. Anyway,
I did not know that. I swear to God, I did not know that. He was born in Tennessee, but he went to Dayton School of Ohio, whatever, University of Dayton. So he's an Ohio guy.
Okay. So real quick, I just wanted your opinion because I thought Jerry Blevins' comment was a little ridiculous. Because one, he if you go through his tweets, he's never said anything about the teammates that he had that had similar situations to Ozuna. He's never disavowed them as well. Complicated situations. And I don't think that Ozuna, if you don't like Ozuna, takes away from the fun of the team. Like, there are 25 other guys on the Braves who have fun personalities. I mean, Nicky Lopez, we've attached ourselves to Nicky Lopez. Nicky Lopez is not a great player. He's fun. Eddie Rosario is a fun player. Michael Harris is a really good and fun player. Acuna, Albies, Arcia, Riley, Olson, the catchers. There are just so many players you can attach yourself to that I don't think one player, if you really despise them, takes away from the fun of the team.
Yeah. And even as a cohesive unit, too, I was actually just thinking about this. You know how the Braves are like the only team that doesn't have a home run piece of
Well, we did
clothing
until New Era took it away from us.
But they have the bird flap, which I actually think is more creative in my opinion. Like I think it's more unique, and it seems more genuine than just having the big hat that made them look like Baby Mario and Baby Luigi. To Marcell Ozuna, though, it really came off as virtue signally. It seemed like somebody who really wanted to show people how good of a person he was, more so than actually having any logic behind a statement. And then he sort of he didn't shoot himself in the foot, but he got shot in the foot when I don't know if it was like corroborated or not, but I think it was a Braves reporter or somebody who said that he and Luke Jackson had issues in the bullpen, and he got into disagreements with teammates, which was interesting because I never would have thought of Jerry Blevins as like a clubhouse cancer type guy, especially.
And Luke Jackson
is
notedly not.
Luke Jackson is one. I mean, almost said the word. Dude was literally, while he had TJ and probably knew he was not going to pitch another inning for the Braves again, was tweeting at his teammates, like giving them words of encouragement.
Luke Jackson was at so many Braves games last year when he knew he was never going to pitch for the team again.
And I know people who know Luke Jackson personally who are like, he is one of the nicest guys you will ever meet. So if you have problems with Luke Jackson, you're most likely the problem. Anyway, we're about to go to break. When we come back, we are going to talk about
pitching and the Dodgers.
Yeah, and how everybody who doubted me owes me an apology. So we will be right back on today's episode of BravesKast. See you on the other side.
Two coming from Buehler. Rosario, deep to right. It is gone! A three-run blast!
And we are back on today's episode of BravesKast. It is August 28th when you're watching / listening, August 27th when we're recording. The Braves are coming off a great game on Sunday Night Baseball, in which only 40% of the game was actually shown. Interesting broadcasting choice by ESPN, but there's a reason I'm here, and their programming directors have their cushy, high-paying jobs. Anyway, I want to give a quick update on Kyle Wright. We talked about him a little bit last week, I believe, and when we did, there was really no new news on him, and then as soon as we finished recording, oh, by the way, Kyle Wright's thrown off the mound. So he pitched a game in, oh my gosh, Rome is high A. Okay, I did an oopsie. He pitched in Rome, 3 innings, 26 pitches, 23 of them were for strikes. Pretty much as good of a start as you can get for a guy who hasn't thrown against live hitting in 3 months. Looked really good. Command was a big issue before he got injured, so I'm still a little wary. I'm sticking with every one of my predictions, and one of mine was Kyle Wright just isn't really going to be a factor for the team this year. I just don't know if he's going to. I mean, it's August 27th. I don't know if he's going to be able to build up to be, by the time October rolls around, I just don't think he's going to be built up enough to be an effective weapon. What do you think?
It's tough because on one hand, I'm like, while he could get in 2 or 3 starts at the major league level right now in September, and then in October they don't need him for the first round. He throws like a simulated game during the DS. If the Braves advance to the NLCS, then he would be available. I don't see the Braves going through all of this trouble to get him back this year if they didn't believe that he could contribute in the playoffs. They're not going to shut down a guy who got Cy Young votes last year after pitching him a few games during the regular season.
Yeah.
So I think it's the Braves' plan to have him ready for the postseason. What that would look like, I don't know. It could look like a Strider start where they maybe use him for 2 or 3 innings, like a Strider postseason start, 2 or 3 innings, and then they turn him over to like Elder. It would help if the Braves had a mediocre lefty. Right now, the Braves' only lefty in the rotation, hopefully after today, is Fried. The other lefty who is starting today is not a mediocre lefty. He's I'm going to say he's a terrible starter, and then he's going to throw the first perfect game in Atlanta Braves history.
Would make sense.
So that's probably going to happen if
date this episode.
Just horribly. But I could see the Braves using him kind of as an opener type. It depends on what the playoffs look like a lot, though.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and I do agree with the intent. The intent is we see him being something of a weapon come October. I just don't know if that's going to be the result.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, because the Braves don't have a fifth starter right now. They don't need one necessarily for the playoffs. In the first round, I think they could go... My guess is they go Fried, Strider, Morton, and then they could go Fried again if they needed to.
Yeah.
And then if they can win in 4 games, then they start with Strider.
I want to go back to the last 10 World Series winners. Maybe that's presumptuous of me, but I do want to go back to see the last 10 World Series winners and see how many starters they used. Obviously, the Braves would have like 7 or 8. I mean, we started basically everybody. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Alan Winans actually started in 2021 and we just forgot about it. Like he started Game 4 of the World Series, and we completely just
World
wiped
Series
it out of our memory.
Was odd. The Braves did not have starters. They had Fried, Morton, and then they said, "Well, we hope it works out after that," and it worked out. That's doing Anderson a discredit. Now that I said that, Ian Anderson had like 5 no-hit innings.
Wildly effective starter. I just keep going back to the Nationals, and I honestly, so many teams use that as the blueprint for this is how we would use 4 starters. Obviously, not every rotation is going to have prime Max Scherzer, prime Steven Strasburg. By the way, just announced his retirement. Hope the best for him in his future. He completely dominated the Braves for, some of a decade, and, he will be missed. And then, obviously, prime Patrick Corbin, as well as Braves legend himself, Anibal Sanchez. So I think that's the blueprint where, we have 3 weapons. I mean, we have 3 guys who on a lot of teams would be the number 1 starter, debatable on Charlie Morton at times. And then we got our, Swiss Army knife, Elder, maybe Wright. Never mind. I'm not going there. I was gonna say Shaver as a starter, but he's not starting a game.
He's currently injured right now.
He is injured too. Yeah.
Know the severity of the injury, but speaking of starters, Cole is pushing me to apologize. I'm gonna make a half apology. At the All-Star break, Cole made a bold prediction that the Braves would have the lowest ERA in the National League or in the majors.
I'm gonna say it was the National League.
We're gonna go with the National League.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it was the National League.
2 weeks later, the Braves had the second worst ERA in the National League, and I gave Cole a chance to take that prediction back. He did not. He's stuck with it. 2 weeks later, it still looked really bad, but not quite as bad. And right now, the Braves have the 10th best ERA in the majors since the All-Star break. So I do need to offer an apology to Cole for trying to make him change his prediction when he was more right than I am.
I don't want to have a premature celebration. We still have a month left. A lot can go wrong. A lot can go right. And also, I mean, we're still only 10th best in the majors. Just going to use some deductive reasoning and say we're 5th or 6th best in the National League. But, I mean, I believed in this rotation. And, weird stuff happens in July, and the thing with baseball is you don't want to overreact to small sample sizes. And you know what? I saw Max Fried, Spencer Strider, and Charlie Morin. I was like, there's no way that they continue slumping. So they went on a 20 innings pitched scoreless streak. It might have been more than that. I didn't look at
So it was like 3 straight games I think it was 3 straight games they shut out their opponent, and then Yanni Chirinos allowed a first
inning to
pitch,
late night Lamont. First
homer
pitch. It was the first hit of the game. It might have been first pitch, which is typical Yanni Chirinos at this point. I just don't think it's worth talking about him in depth. Even though I think I did catch on your we don't have a fifth starter line, which that's pretty much all you need to hear when it comes to Yanni Chirinos.
Yeah. So the Braves really have turned it around starting rotation wise. I know that qualified starters are not plentiful, but did you know that the Braves go 6, 7, 8 in the ERA rankings in the National League? It's Morton, Elder, and Strider 6, 7, 8
That
in the
makes
National
sense.
League in ERA.
That makes sense.
I think that's a testament to just healthy pitchers, but
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and they've all done it in different ways. They've all slumped at different points. I mean, there's times where a lot of people were hitting the panic button on Spencer Strider. A lot of people thought Charlie Morton was washed. We'll get to Charlie Morton in a second. But and Max Fried, he's not going to be able to qualify, but I could see his ERA sitting below 3 when the season ends.
man, below 2 would be quite a string of impressive
oh my
starts.
gosh, like a Oral Hershiser type of run. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you want to talk about Morton right now? I feel like
let's do it. Yeah, I feel like I was cooking a little bit with this nugget. So Morton, as we know, reinvented himself as a pitcher. When he first came up with the Braves, as me and Mitchell pointed out, he was not a good pitcher. And then he basically became something of a journeyman, playing for the Pirates, Phillies, and then he joins the Houston Astros and completely revamp his usage, really, I mean, he just became a different pitcher. I mean, he went from...
He just decided to throw 4 miles an hour faster than he had
Yeah,
been.
it happens.
Easy.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I did when I was pitching as a little leaguer.
You're like, you know what I'm missing? I'm missing 4 miles per hour on my fastball. If I could just do that, easy.
If I could just go from a 92 mile an hour fastball to a 96 that can top out at 100, I'll do that. If he did that, like we all do.
Comfortably high in the zone, and I guess it's been the theme of this episode, but sneakily became one of the best pitchers from 2017 to now. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but you know, he signs the biggest contract in Rays history, which is like for 2 years and $40 million, but he was really good for them. Actually, it's a lot less too, and you account for the fact that it was the prorated Mickey Mouse season. But you know, he's had its ebbs and flows. He was really good for us in 2021. I would say our best pitcher, Max Fried, wasn't on the team. And last year, shaky, had some issues with the long ball. This year, mixed bag, but he's trending upward. And really the key for it, and we're about to get kind of, you know, if this sounds too jargony, you can skip like a minute ahead. I'll say my piece. He has a 2.01 ERA in August, and the difference is the horizontal movement on his... They call it a curveball, and I just don't get it. Like, it's a slider. I mean, am I wrong here?
Here's the thing. I think pitch classification is kind of arbitrary in general.
It kind of is. Like, the whole, oh my God, I almost said slutter. That's not it. Sweeper. The whole sweeper thing. It's just like, it's just a slider with more...
It's a different type of slider.
Horizontal movement. I mean, it was a
there's that
slider.
guy who throws a backwards slider.
On the
and
Rays?
I think he's on the Pirates. It's not classified as a screwball. It's classified as a slider, but it breaks away. It breaks as if he's a left-handed pitcher and he's a right-handed pitcher.
It's a lot of it is very much semantical, but it's this year. I think the sweeper messed everything up. Now we're calling, because before this year I've never really had this issue. Like, whenever I see a pitch, I'm like, that's a slider. classified as a slider. And now it's just they're calling Morton's slider, which we've called it a slider. I mean, it's been a slider. They're calling it a curveball now. So I'm just going to call it a slider. Basically, that's the key. And we've talked about how you can tell if Spencer Strider is struggling and is if it's his fastball usage is down, if you see that he's relying more on the slider. Morton's the opposite, I would say. You know that Morton's good when he's comfortably throwing sliders to left-handed hitters. And the reason is that it has, I would say, insane horizontal break. And the key to his 2.01 ERA in August is the fact that his slider is acting as a slider. It has over half an inch of horizontal break this month, where when it was at its low point, it was more around the 0.17 range, which is, I would say, kind of where, this is, again, anecdotal, kind of where Strider's is. Maybe his has a little bit more than.
Well, Strider throws his slider so much faster.
Yeah, that's fair. Not saying that they're, just it's an ineffective pitch or anything, but Morton is a guy where he needs a slider to basically break across the plate, more or less. So, just if you want to sound smart to your friends when you're watching Braves games, when Morton is pitching, if you see him throwing a bunch of sliders to lefties, you can say, that's how I can tell that Morton is on his A game.
Or you can say that that's a curveball and then start a massive argument with Cole.
I will throw a remote at you. So, so that's just something to keep an eye on, I think, going into September. If his slider, I almost called it a curveball. If his slider is able to really keep above that 0.5 threshold is really where you see the success rate. If he's able to keep it above there going into September, I could see him. I think the Braves are paying attention to it too. I could see him as a number 2. Nothing against number 2 behind Fried. Nothing against Strider. I just think the Braves know that Morton has had postseason success, and if again 2.01 ERA in August when his slider is at full capacity. I think if he's there, and we're going to pay attention to it when we do our World Series.
I hope we have the chance to do a World Series preview.
When we do our playoff preview, that's going to be one of the things I bring up. If I look at the chart and he's above that half an inch threshold, I'm going to say he's going to be our number 2 going into postseason.
I think that's a situation where it's like back in 2019 where Max Fried only made one start. Or no, Max Fried didn't make a start. Where Max Fried didn't make a start and Michael Soroka started Game 3 because they wanted Keuchel to get 2 starts.
Yeah.
Morton is a lot better pitcher than Keuchel is, although Keuchel almost threw a no-hitter a couple of days ago.
What a weird career that man has had.
But I just think that if the Braves start Morton in Game 2 of the NLDS, especially with all the days off, it's kind of just like when the Braves started Michael Soroka one game, didn't start Fried at all, and then in Game 5 that was canceled and doesn't exist. They were going to throw out Mike Foltynewicz, but thankfully that didn't happen. And
yeah, they advanced and just got beat by the Nationals.
I don't know how the Cardinals got
way.
that coin flip to.
Oh
advance.
yeah.
That was wild. I can't believe they did that. Totally.
Yeah, the pace of play experimental rules they had that year were just off the
just
charts.
Crazy. Surely they didn't allow 10 runs in the first inning. I guess that kind of leads us into the Dodgers series and the best record in baseball, because
do you want to do
that
related
thing
at the end when we're doing the next series previews, or
we can kind of bleed into it, I think, because I feel like we have a bit to talk about. Well, first let me shout out Nicky Lopez.
Yeah.
We are trying to position ourselves as the first members of the Nicky Lopez Club, for better or for worse, because we had a live reaction while we were recording, and both of us reacted positively to Nicky Lopez, and then he had the game of his life. He's cooled down a bit, but he's still been worth 0.5 F4 with the Braves, which was his worth with the Royals, and that's after not playing for 2 weeks. He's had to play a lot with Albies hurt. And the guy that the Royals traded him for, Taylor Hearn, has been in the major leagues. He's pitched 6.2 innings. He has a 6.75 ERA and a 5.67 FIP. So just another Alex Anthopoulos masterclass. And just Nicky Lopez, he fits right in.
Yeah.
He's a fun guy to have on the team.
He's there's like the Ron Washington barometer, and it's like if you mess with if you're looking on the field and the player like he's messing with Ron Washington, he's having a good time with him. That's how you know that he's good in the clubhouse, and like they automatically connected. I think Ron Washington knew that he was basically getting their best infielder in terms of defense, but yeah, he's really melded with the clubhouse. And again, I mean, think about it. When he made this trade, Alex Anthopoulos is almost like the expert of making trades that you don't think you need until you do. And we were like, oh, you know, we do need infield depth, but you know, everybody's playing every day. Now with the Ozzy Albies injury, I mean, and he's been worth half a win. That's
even without much of a bat. Nicky Lopez has basically been a single setter outside of his first two games with the Braves hitting.
Think about it like this: if we didn't get Nicky Lopez, it would have been Charlie Culberson. Unless it would have been, I don't know, Vaughn Grissom.
It might have been Vaughn Grissom. I do think it's interesting that Vaughn's not really playing.
He's been kind of unplayable. I mean, he's looked really
He's been
bad.
okay. I definitely watch his defense, and I think, ugh.
Yeah.
I haven't given up on Grissom as a player. Like, Chipper Jones was still saying great things about him on the broadcast that I saw.
He's going to make a really good left fielder for the Giants one day. So, do we want to go ahead, jump right into the previews and the big series? Again, arguably the biggest series of the rest of the season.
Yeah, let's kind of do this backwards. So, in the next 2 weeks, the Braves play 13 games. They have 3 in Colorado, which should be a fireworks show. I'm going to be honest. If it's not, I'm going to be pretty disappointed. I just want to see one 480-foot homer. Just one.
Yeah.
By the Braves, of course. By the Braves. But there's just so much potential to have one of those guys, one of the 6 guys who can hit the ball 115 miles an hour off the bat, to just launch one in Denver. Then they go to Los Angeles. I had no idea the Braves played the Dodgers for 4 games. I kind of hate this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So they play the Dodgers. They play 4 games in Los Angeles. Then they go back home to St. Louis, or not, back home to play St. Louis. And then they play the Pirates. 9 of those games come against teams who are not very good. I know the Pirates had a series tie with the Braves in Pittsburgh. The Cardinals have a good offense. I'll stand by that. They have a good offense. They have maybe one of the worst pitching staffs that you could ever have. Adam Wainwright. Wainwright should have retired last year.
This is so cruel. I hope we.
I feel bad for him. He's trying to get his 200th win, and every start he goes out there, he allows 3 homers and 9 runs.
He allowed 8 earned runs in 1 inning against the Kansas City Royals, who have like the worst offense in all of baseball. 1 inning, 8 earned runs against the.
I think Zach Greinke could have had a 4-homer game against.
Yeah,
Waino.
I hope we do an Anthony Rendon where we all just switch sides. Like Matt Olson hits righty against him. Acuna hits lefty.
Acuna almost hit lefty a couple of years ago. Do you remember that? And then Snicker gave him the no, you don't.
Vaguely.
I'll find that clip. I'll post it on this channel.
Nice.
But yeah, I feel like I'm setting myself up to be jinxed a lot this episode. But right now, objectively, the Cardinals have as bad of a pitching staff as you could have.
Yeah.
The Pirates are not good. The Rockies are not good.
Yeah.
The Dodgers, however, are very good. And in fact, the Braves have been in a bit of cruise control. They've been number 1 in basically every single power rankings you could have for the past 2 months. they might not finish the season with the best record in the National League.
It's very similar to what happened last year with the Mets and the Braves, where the Mets got out to a sizable lead in the NL East. You know, we talked about the meme of 10.5 games, and then it's not like it's not like the Mets were bad. They didn't have a collapse. The Braves just hit another gear, and played like their hair was on fire for the rest of the season. The Dodgers are just. I mean, it's funny because. And I was not in this camp. I am always scared of the Dodgers. I will never doubt them. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, the transitional year, and they're just saving up for Ohtani, and they're not going to be the same Dodgers." And I was like, "No, their pitching's been not great, admittedly. Even though I'm pretty sure Julio Urias is turning a corner, and I think Clayton Kershaw's coming back, which I'm going to be so sad if we face him because he is. I don't think he's ever allowed a run against the Braves. Not saying that the streak's going to continue, but I could still see him going like 7-2 and runs against us. But the Dodgers are just playing silly right now.
Well, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me how you could have a guy. I knew Hayward was fixable. I wanted the Braves to sign him this offseason. The last time I checked, he was still an above-average hitter, which is crazy when you look at what Hayward had done with the Cubs. They also came into the season planning to start Gavin Lux at shortstop. I thought that was weird, too, because I thought he was more of a second baseman.
Mm-hmm.
That was weird to begin with. Lux had just the most unfortunate ACL injury that you could have, just running the bases.
Yeah.
Then they go into the season with Miggy Rojas as the starter. That's a terrible idea. He's decent defensively, no bat. Then they go, you know that 5'8" right fielder of ours who is really good at bowling and kind of played second base? I bet he could play shortstop. And then they put him at shortstop, and he played shortstop.
It was good.
Mookie Betts right now is incredibly hot. Mookie Betts is doing to Ronald Acuna Jr.'s MVP candidacy what the Braves did to the Mets last year in the postseason. Acuna's played a very quiet month, but he's still like a 140, 145 WRC plus hitter for the month. He has done nothing wrong from a MVP candidate. He's not slumping. He's playing well. For all I care, I think I looked it up. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think Mookie Betts has like a 400 WRC plus this month. Like every game he plays, he has 3 hits. And it's not 3 singles. It's like a single and a homer and a double, or 2 doubles and a triple. Like he had 3 hits yesterday. Just 3 quiet hits in Boston. He has the WAR lead. He has the F WAR lead, and I think he has the Baseball Reference WAR lead over Acuna. Not by a little, by a lot. I don't bet.
Almost a full win, yeah.
I don't bet, but if you want to make money, it would not be a bad idea to bet on Mookie Betts for MVP. And that's not to say Ronald Acuna Jr. hasn't been good. It's just Mookie Betts is playing out of his mind.
And something that I want to cover too is that, I mean, by the All-Star break, we're talking about a unanimous MVP for Ronald Acuna Jr. I mean, there was no debate about it. And like you said, he's cooled down. He hasn't been cold. I mean, he's still putting up all-star numbers.
A 140 WRC plus can win you the MVP.
Yeah.
Over the course of a season. That's what he's done on his cold month.
Yeah. But Mookie Betts is just on another. I mean, he's basically, I would say, playing better than he did in his 2018 MVP season.
His 2018 season is insane.
I still look at that season, and I can't believe what he was able to do. Didn't he score like 140 runs or something? He's already at 100 this year, and he's going to have 100.
He had a 10.5. I think it was a B WAR. He had close to a 10 F WAR, and he missed 25 games. For people, if you are watching and you don't know like F WAR, to hit 10 F WAR is like having a Barry Bonds season, like Barry Bonds on steroids season.
It's only been
Babe Ruth against
been done
pitchers who
less
don't know
than
what to do.
like 30 times. Maybe
It's
less than
incredibly
25
rare,
times,
and
yeah.
that's for guys who play the entire season. Mookie Betts
He played 136 games.
3 weeks and still had one of the best seasons you can ever have as a player. And I agree with you, Cole. I think this season he's not running as much as he did when he was with the Red Sox. He had a 30-30 season that year. But other than that, I think he is better than he was.
He could hit 40 homers. He's already crossed 100 runs. He's probably going to get to 100 RBI out of the leadoff spot, which I don't even want to say how many times that's been done. That's a rare number right there. He's still playing amazing right field. I'm not great with the positional adjustments, but I do wonder how much him playing shortstop and second base have factored in.
Here's
I don't
the
think a
weird
lot.
thing.
I don't think it's factored in a lot because he hasn't played too many games in the infield.
He's played a decent amount of second base. He's played over 10 games at short, but he's not like the regular shortstop. It just is insane that he can do that.
Yeah.
Ronald Acuna Jr. right now on F4 is getting dinged a lot for outs above average.
Yeah.
But Fangraphs released a different thing called fielding run value. And Ronald Acuna Jr.'s arm like almost completely makes up for his lack of range or his range issues. So I would wager that when Fangraphs eventually switches over to fielding run value, that Ronald Acuna Jr.'s F4 will be increased by like 0.5 just because of that defense being fixed. But even that 0.5, I mean, Mookie Betts would still have the lead. And they play primarily the same position. Betts will get a boost playing second base because it is considered a harder position. But if you can play a harder position and still be a positive fielder, then you should get that extra value. Yeah. I'm a little disappointed though. I really want Ronald to get the MVP. It really pains me to accept that Betts is a better choice right now.
I'm actually gonna have a different spin on this. I hope I don't eat my words. I might be eating my words this time in 2 weeks. I like the fact that the Dodgers and Mookie Betts, Toronto Acuna, are challenging us. One concern that every fan has, especially in the dog days of August, is the team losing some steam. Just, we have a 20-game lead in the NL East. We're going to have the best record. Losing some of that passion as the season wears on, and especially the timing of this series, especially too. I kind of like that the Dodgers are lighting a fire under us just because of the history that we've had with them. Which really, I think we've rewrote 2018, when we played them, it was definitely a big brother situation. I mean, they just had their way with us. We didn't face them in 2019, 2020. We all know what happened there. And then 2021, we
all know
rewrite
what
the
happens
books.
there.
Yeah. So I like the fact that now there's a chance we don't finish with the best record. There's a chance that Acuna might not win the MVP because it's motivation for the team to keep playing with the same passion. The clubhouse chemistry, I mean, just it's so between Walt Weiss, Brian Snicker, Ron Washington, Kevin Seitzer. It's just you have these guys that I think are going to keep pushing them and keep saying, hey, So I see in your notes here, we can get to this too. We have 7 minutes, so we might have to rush this a little bit. About does home field advantage matter? And if we play the Dodgers and the NLCS, do we want the home field advantage? I think it does. I think the 2021 NLCS, if we don't have those first 2 games at home to be able to set the table, especially with those 2 dramatic walk-offs, I'm not going to say we lose, but that series plays out a lot differently if those first 2 games are at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, one of my thought processes, does the best record matter in baseball for the NLDS? So the DS structure is really weird that if the Braves have the best record, and they still have a 5-game lead. It's not like the Braves are like a loss will put them as the second best team. They just need to keep winning.
Yeah.
The Braves will face either the NLC or not NL Central division winner or the 6th seed, who I think right now it changes every day.
It's so
it
chaotic.
was the
It's so
Diamondbacks.
chaotic.
It's not the Diamondbacks. It might be the Cubs. It might be the Giants. But the Dodgers will end up facing, if they are the second best team, they will, and it either will be the Braves or the Dodgers. The Brewers would have to win like 25 of the next 30 some games. Like it just is not happening. The Dodgers will have to face the 2 wild cards, so the Phillies or whoever that other team is. The Phillies are a tough team. I don't actually want to face the Phillies.
Not a
at
3-game
all,
series,
ever.
especially. Yeah.
No, I think I'm more of a believer than Phillies fans in Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. And now that they have Harper playing first base, you have a better defender out in the outfield. I really like the Phillies team. Like, I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
they have a fun team. And Trey Turner decided to
he's
go
heating
God
up.
mode again.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately.
So in one sense, the Dodgers might have an easier path to the NLCS if they don't have to face the Phillies, whereas the Braves would probably be playing the better team in the Brewers. But then I guess I do agree with you in the NLCS if the Braves and Dodgers can get there. The West Coast is a tough spot for either if you're a West Coast team and you're coming to Atlanta, or if you're Atlanta going to a West Coast team. That's tough.
Yeah. You'd rather be in your
and
own
if-
time zone for those
100%.
games, potentially for those games.
And you get a lot of days off
Yeah.
in between. So if the Braves and the Dodgers can finish up in 4 games in the NLDS and they move on, then they can just stay at home. So whichever one is there versus you have to prep and then travel and then that
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah, for the
So-
for the NLDS, and we've talked about this. They need to change that. It just I like the idea. I actually do like the idea now of the team picking who they play, and then just the rest falling as they will.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, we don't make the rules. We just complain about them. So, yeah, I when it gets closer, the NL wild card is so nebulous right now. I mean, it's just literally changing every day. As we get closer to it, I think I'll look more in depth and say, okay, I'd rather play this team. But yeah, I mean, Phillies, I definitely.
I
do
think
not
the
wanna see in a
Phillies are
short
the one
series.
team that is in the NL wild card that
I
I just don't want to face
Yeah.
in a best of 5.
Yeah,
They-
even the
they
Cubs taking 2 out of 3 against us in Chicago. I think I'd rather, especially if we have home field advantage, I would definitely rather see the Cubs. I just
Yeah.
don't know if I trust their pitching depth enough to get them through more than a 3-game series if it goes the distance.
At the end of the day, the Braves are still one of the best teams in baseball. The Braves, I don't think they've lost a series against an NL East team this year. So
Yeah, we split the one against Philadelphia. That was the closest we got.
So the Phillies, like, as scary as my brain is making them out to be, they've still won every series so far or tied, and the Braves just need to win. It's not like the Marlins, if they're ever able to come back. The Marlins
Okay.
could beat the Braves in the NLDS.
I feel
But-
bad. I feel like I cursed Luis Arias. He's been so bad.
Dude, isn't he hitting like under 250 the past 30 games?
He might not even win the NL batting title. You know what?
Well, that's
I didn't
because
even-
some first baseman in LA decided to get better.
Yeah. Oh my god, I hate the Dodgers. Anyway, any last thoughts before we go? Dodger series is, like I said, I think it's going to be the biggest series for the rest of the year. Really tune into that one, and then maybe the Phillies series at home. Just as a
I mean, the
potential
Phillies
NLDS
the
preview.
Braves have a doubleheader in Philadelphia mid-September. That could be interesting. But then I think it doesn't really interfere with like the pitching schedule because they'll have a day off after that series is over. This Dodgers series, it's going to be tough going from the Rockies series that I'm really looking forward to watching from a Braves offense standpoint to going to LA and facing a team I don't want to play. So
yeah,
it should be a fun week.
I don't think it's going to be like a sobering series, unless I don't want to say anything. No, I'm not saying anything. I don't want to say anything because that's I think where we're really going to put everything into perspective. It's like how are we? I mean, we've been really good against good teams. Don't get me wrong, but that's going to be the series that is going to open our eyes one way or the other. So, looking forward to it. Mitchell thinks we're going to go 8-5 during that stretch. I think we're going to go 7-6. I just have us losing the series to the Pirates just because every year there's like one scrappy team. Remember when we got swept in the season series to the Blue Jays in 2021?
We haven't won a game against the Blue Jays since I
have a feeling that,
or something.
That's
stupid.
fair. That's fair. I just have a feeling the Pirates are going to be that team that just like somehow like edges out the season series against us. That's just my like stupid.
They did it to the Dodgers last year, so
there we go. All right, this has been BravesKast, August 28th. Subscribe to our channels.